Everybody, our deep dive today, well, it takes us to a place that's all about new beginnings and incredible generosity.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have given us some pretty amazing material, a YouTube video transcript and some written excerpts too, both telling the same captivating story.
Yes.
So let's unpack it. What makes this story so powerful?
Absolutely. I think it's a story about, belonging after like hardship, real hardship.
Right.
And what I think is so interesting is how these small details
Yeah.
really reveal a lot about the culture and the values of this very welcoming community.
Okay, so it starts with Waswa arriving at this new village after a really tough journey. And he's greeted by Khabao,
Yes.
the village chief, under this baobab tree. I've always been fascinated by baobab trees.
Oh, yeah, me too.
They just seem so ancient and full of stories.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do they hold any special significance in this culture?
Oh, absolutely. The baobab tree is so much more than just a tree. In many African societies, it's like deeply embedded in their folklore and mythology, often seen as a meeting place for spirits or like a living library.
Wow.
Of, ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
So by putting the baobab as this backdrop, for Waswa's welcome, the story is kind of subtly telling us he's entering a place where wisdom, longevity, and resilience are deeply valued.
I know that. I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah.
Okay, so under this incredible tree, Khabao offers Waswa a three-legged stool.
Yes.
And I've read that this is a symbol of honor and respect.
It is.
In the source material, but it makes me wonder, is it always that simple? Could offering a seat also be a way to like subtly reinforce social hierarchy?
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not always straightforward. While the gesture definitely conveys respect, you could definitely see it as a way of like maintaining social order.
Right. Offering a seat.
Yeah.
He might be acknowledging Waswa's presence, but also kind of subtly reinforcing his authority as the village chief.
Yeah.
It's a very fascinating dynamic.
It really is. It makes you think about all the layers of meaning behind even the simplest actions.
Yeah.
And then Khabao says these incredibly powerful words. He says, "You are welcome to stay with us for as long as you wish. You are now one of us."
Wow.
After all Waswas has been through, I mean, that must have felt incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine that relief.
Yeah.
That sense of security that those words convey.
Right.
It's just this immediate declaration of inclusion.
Right.
Especially meaningful for someone who might have felt excluded or ostracized before.
Right. Totally.
From the start, the story is setting the stage for his healing and his journey to find a new home.
It's amazing how just those few words can totally shift someone's whole perspective.
And it's not just Khabao who welcomes Waswa.
Right.
We're also introduced to Nambuye, described as the mother of the village, who joins them under the baobab tree, and they form a circle.
Yes.
And the stories start coming.
That circle itself is like another really potent symbol.
Really?
Yeah. In many cultures, circles represent like unity.
Right.
The interconnectedness of all things.
Yeah.
So by forming a circle with Waswa, they're visually showing his inclusion.
Yeah.
Setting the stage for this genuine sharing of stories and experiences.
Yes, and that's where the storytelling magic comes into play.
Totally.
Khabao shares tales of the village's history, their triumphs and their struggles.
Yeah.
And then it's Waswa's turn. He shares his own story.
Yeah.
And he reveals the hardships he's faced.
Yeah.
Including the famine that ravaged his village, Olwanda.
Sharing our stories, especially the hard ones, is an act of incredible courage.
Yeah.
It takes vulnerability.
Yeah.
And a lot of trust.
Right.
But it can be profoundly healing for the person sharing and for those listening.
Right.
It allows us to process our experiences, connect with others who might have been through similar things, and ultimately find meaning in our struggles.
It really makes you wonder, do you think compassion is something we learn, or are we just born with it?
Oh.
In this story, it seems to run in families.
Yeah.
Natsuki's eyes, we were told, they mirror her mother's, and they both have this spark of kindness.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a question that has fascinated philosophers and scientists for ages.
Yeah.
Nature versus nurture.
Right.
This story leans into the idea that compassion could be hereditary, passed down through generations.
Yeah.
But of course, our environment and our experiences play a role too in who we become.
Right.
So it's most likely this complex interplay of both.
Yeah. As Waswa shares his story, the sun starts to set, and Nasi comes back with a gourd of sour milk for him.
Right.
And this seemingly simple gesture of offering refreshment,
Yeah.
it really struck me,
Yeah.
especially after we got the description of her kind eyes.
You know, offering food and drink is such a deeply rooted way of expressing welcome and hospitality across so many cultures.
It's true.
It goes beyond just quenching thirst or hunger. It's about offering nourishment and care and strengthening that bond between people.
And the way the sour milk is described, it's so evocative. We hear about the gourd filled to the brim, the creamy milk, even Nasiki's voice being soft like the rustle of leaves. You can practically taste and feel the scene.
The author's use of sensory detail is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like a masterclass in immersive storytelling.
Right.
We're not just told about Waswa's experience. We're right there with him, feeling the coolness of the milk, hearing the sounds of the village. It brings the story to life.
Yeah.
And makes it so much more impactful.
It really does.
Wow.
As the evening unfolds, we see Waswa observing the children, Wanyama and Nakano, chasing a chicken. And it's mentioned he's looking forward to a meal of chicken stew, which is something he hasn't had in a long time, after experiencing famine, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
This simple meal must take on a whole new meaning.
Absolutely. It's not just about satisfying his hunger. It's this powerful symbol of the abundance, the generosity of his new community. It represents a shift from scarcity to plenty. A tangible sign that his life is changing for the better.
It really makes you think about how our experiences shape our perceptions of even the most basic things. A simple meal becomes a symbol of hope.
Totally.
A brighter future.
And speaking of hope, there's this beautiful image of the village breathing around Waswa, with villagers greeting him with these warm smiles. It's like he's being enveloped by this living, breathing entity.
It's such a powerful image.
It is.
I was struck by how it contrasts with that famine-stricken village that he left behind. This new community feels so vibrant and full of life. It makes me wonder, could we explore this idea of the village breathing as like a metaphor for community resilience?
I think that's a brilliant insight. You know, ecosystems thrive on interdependence, on mutual support. Just like a forest needs every tree, every creature to flourish. A strong community relies on the interconnectedness of its members. So the village breathing could definitely be seen as this metaphor for that collective strength. For the way that a community can come together to overcome challenges and support one another.
And Waswa's journey embodies that, doesn't it? He arrives as this outsider, but through these acts of kindness, shared stories, and those everyday experiences, he becomes one of us, as Khabao said.
His transformation really highlights how community is more than just a place. It's this ongoing process. You know, it's built through these shared experiences, small acts of generosity, a willingness to embrace others, even those different from us.
Thinking back to the sources I'm curious about, the significance of the setting sun. It feels like more than just a detail describing the time of day.
Sunsets often symbolize endings and new beginnings, don't they? So in this context, the setting sun could represent the end of Waswa's difficult journey and the start of a new chapter, a time of transition where darkness gives way to light. A metaphor for the hope dawning for Waswa.
And the choice of a rural village as the setting is interesting too.
It is.
You know, it often evokes this sense of community, simplicity, a connection with nature, especially in contrast with the hardship he's faced.
That contrast is striking. It really highlights the stark reality of his past, while emphasizing the transformative power of his arrival in this new community. It's a journey from hardship and scarcity to a place of abundance, generosity, and hope.
It also makes me think about the role of children in the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we see them briefly chasing that chicken.
Yeah.
But their presence adds another layer of meaning.
It does, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Children symbolize the future, the continuation of life,
right.
the passing on of traditions. So
Mm-hmm.
their presence in the story brings this sense of hope and reminds us that even in the face of hardship, life goes on, and there are always reasons to smile. It feels like every detail in this story has been so carefully chosen to weave this tapestry of hope and resilience.
It's true. What makes this story so compelling is its universal appeal. While the story is set in a specific cultural context, the themes of belonging, generosity, and hope resonate with people from all walks of life.
We've talked a lot about the villagers' kindness.
We have.
But Waswa's own courage shouldn't be overlooked either.
Yeah.
It takes incredible strength to open up and share your story, especially after experiencing such hardship. It makes you realize that vulnerability can be a source of strength for the person sharing and for those who are listening.
And, you know, the vulnerability can create this ripple effect, inspiring others to be kind and compassionate. And we see this all through the story, from the stool to the food to the stories. It's like each act of generosity creates space for more generosity.
I think what strikes me the most is how even seemingly insignificant acts, like the stool or the sour milk, can have such a huge impact on someone's sense of belonging.
It really does remind us that building a welcoming and inclusive community doesn't require these big, grand gestures. It's the small, everyday things that make a difference.
This deep dive has really made me think about how I can be more intentional about creating, you know, those spaces of belonging in my own life. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget the power of just like extending a hand or offering a kind word or making someone feel seen and valued.
It's true. We all have the power to contribute to that sense of belonging, whether it's in our families or workplaces or our community.
Sometimes the simplest gestures have the biggest impact. A smile, a listening ear, a helping hand. Those are the building blocks of strong and supportive communities.
And that's the takeaway. The story reminds us that we all have a role to play in creating communities where everyone feels welcomed, valued, and supported.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this sense of hope and inspiration. You know, it's a reminder that even when things are hard, human connection and kindness can create this ripple effect, leading to healing and transformation and a better future for everyone.
Think about the ways in which you've experienced or witnessed the power of welcoming and generosity. How can we each create communities where everyone feels a sense of belonging and hope?
That's something worth thinking about.
It is.